Do you prefer serving your customers or selling to them? If you want to spend more of your time serving your customers, I'd like to show you a way to consistently find and attract customers in a faster and easier method. I discovered this secret through a rather painful journey that I'd like to help you avoid. You see, I used to work in IT for almost 20 years, and while it paid really well, I didn't really have any passion for it. And so I was always looking to start a business of my own. Particularly, I was looking for a business that would allow me to work from anywhere in the world. My husband and I had always done humanitarian work overseas, and many times we had quit our jobs and gone and done volunteer works for 3, 6, or 9 months at a time. But I wanted to be able to have the means to be able to work anywhere in the world and still be able to volunteer part-time and make the two work together at the same time. And so I was always trying to start new business ventures, but none of them ever stuck. And I'd start one, and after a while, something just didn't seem right. And rather than try to figure out what was wrong, I just started a new venture. And I went through this more times than I care to admit. But one day I got a call from the company, the business intelligence company I worked for, and they were downsizing drastically. And I was suddenly out of a job. And so suddenly I'd gone from 6 figures to no figures. And I had the choice of either trying to get a new IT job or start a new business. Well, my husband, bless his heart, supported me in trying to start a new business. Now, I'd love to tell you that it all took off right away and I got focused and made it work. Unfortunately, I still floundered for well over a year. We ended up having to sell our beautiful house on an acreage and move back into the house we were renting out to tenants. We ate up through much of our savings, and it was getting to the point where I was beginning to think I was just going to have to go back and get a job in IT. Well, one, I dreaded the thought of doing it. Not that it was terrible, but I really wanted to do this. But two, it was also humiliating. I considered myself to be fairly intelligent and experienced and capable, and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't make this work. Other people had, so what was wrong with me? Well, once it reached the point where I just, finances, I wasn't going to eat up all of our savings, so I decided I gave myself 3 months. And I said, you have to pull it together in this time period. And so I realized if I was going to get things turned around in 3 months, I had to do things differently. I couldn't keep on creating these big, grand products and ideas separate from who I was giving them to. And so I realized finally something that honestly I knew deep down all along, but I was just avoiding because it was uncomfortable. And that was I needed to reach out to my target audience. I needed to talk to my prospective customers. And I'd avoided this all this time because it was a little uncomfortable to me. But finally, it was at the point where I either had the pain of going back and getting an IT job and facing the kind of humiliation of failure, or stepping outside my comfort zone and doing something uncomfortable to me. Well, the deadline of failure kind of shoved me outside that comfort zone and got me taking the steps I needed to do all along. Well, what surprisingly, once I regained my balance from being shoved outside my comfort zone, I discovered that one, it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was, and two, as I started talking to my customers and getting to know them better and understanding their problems and their goals and their obstacles, I discovered I was actually having fun. And on top of it all, the stress and worry about how I was going to succeed, whether I was going to succeed, started to go away because I was getting the information I needed to know what would work, with who, and how I'd proceed. And I'd like to show you how to do the same thing. What I discovered is that the key to success is to love your customers and they'll love you. Now, I realize that may sound just like a cute motto if you don't have a way to implement it. But the good news is that I really discovered the implementation steps first, and it was only after that and seeing the success that I realized it really was about loving your customers. And what it really involved is kind of 3 parts to the process. In this video, I'd like to share with you the first part, and then in the next two videos, I'll share with you the next two parts. The first part is first identify your customers, then connecting with them, and then really to begin serving them. First, you need to choose the right customers for you. Are they a good fit for you? Do you enjoy being around them? Do you understand them? Can you reach out to them and relate to them? And vice versa, are you a good fit for them? Do you have the skills and the abilities and the passion to serve them effectively? It kind of reminds me of a dating service. Think of something like eHarmony. What they do is they help get information about each individual to help make sure that they're a good match, because people don't want to date just anybody. They want to date someone that is a good match for them. That's why people turn to businesses like eHarmony and other dating sites, because they've gone through the pain often of blind dates, which often turn out quite terrible. So we want to find customers that are a good fit for us. Now, often when I work with clients, sometimes when I first start out with them and explain to them that we need to narrow in on their target audience, they resist, because they think that they can get more customers if they have a bigger target audience. But think about a restaurant. If you were a restaurant owner and you wanted to get more customers, and you decided, well, the best way to do that is to offer every cuisine. And so you offer Italian, Chinese, Thai, Mexican, French, everything you can imagine. How successful do you think that would be? Occasionally you might get a couple families who have people with totally different tastes, but generally speaking, you're not going to succeed, because everybody knows a restaurant that offers every cuisine probably doesn't make any of them very well. Well, it's true in every business. If you try to serve everyone, you'll serve everyone poorly. You want to focus on a small, tight group where you can really identify what their problems are, their obstacles and goals, a group that shares those same problems, obstacles, and goals, and focus on serving them not just well, but amazingly well. Just like it's much easier to serve one cuisine and do it really well than trying to serve out 10, the same goes with identifying target audiences. You can serve one specific narrow target audience much more effectively than a large group. Once we identify the target audience we want to narrow in on, the second step is to find and connect with them. Don't try to be a secret admirer and love them from afar. We need to really identify them, reach out, and connect with them. An important part of identifying your target group is also, can you find that target group in concentrated, recognizable groups? Now, this is important because if you can't, you're going to have a very hard time marketing to them. But if you can find them in organizations, in online forums, Facebook and LinkedIn groups, in groups, meetups in your town or area, then you can go to those groups, talk to them, listen to them, really connect with them, and start talking to individuals within those groups. But if they aren't congregating in groups, it's going to be very expensive and time-consuming to market to them. And so even if they want what you have, if you can't reach them in a time and cost-effective manner, you're going to have a hard time being profitable. So go ahead and find where can you reach them, and then start doing so. So join those groups, start talking to individuals, ask questions, listen to them. And, I realize for some people this is going to be difficult. There's some natural born extroverts who just love this part of the instruction and just dive on in and love meeting new people. And then there's the rest of us who feel a little uncomfortable going into new places and reaching out. But the fact of the matter is at some point you're going to have to reach out to your customers to sell to them. So you might as well start doing it now. And there are ways to do it easier. And the good part is if you start reaching out to them now, rather than when you have something to sell, it's going to be more comfortable because you're not reaching out to them in a salesman way. You're just reaching out to them to build a relationship and, in the next step, to good value. So the third step in this process is to show that you love them by giving free value. And the good thing is that builds upon step one, which is identifying your narrow target audience. You can't give value to them if you don't know what they value. And so you need to first make sure you have that narrow target audience, you know their problems and their goals and their obstacles, and then focus on giving value to help them solve those problems, to overcome those obstacles and meet their goals. It's easy to say you love someone, but really when I talk about love your customers, we're talking about love the verb, love in action. You need to show you care about your customers, and you do that by helping them, by giving them content that isn't fluff. Give them content that really helps them take measurable steps towards solving their problems, overcoming their obstacles, and reaching their goals. So to review, the 3 steps are: first, your narrow target audience. 2, find and connect with them. Start a conversation, get to know them, start building those relationships. And then 3, serve your customers. Start giving value that helps them take steps to overcoming their problems and reaching their goals. I understand that some of you may have some concerns about taking some of these steps. I've worked with many entrepreneurs who, as I noted before, when I talk about narrowing in on your target audience, they sometimes resist at first because they believe that because they need more customers, they think they need a bigger target audience. But what they don't understand is the logic's a little flawed. In fact, the best way to attract more customers is to narrow in on that target audience. By doing it effectively, they can grow that audience, and then in the future, they can expand that target audience, but only once they're effectively converting and serving that smaller target audience. For those of you who see yourselves as introverts, you may be a little resistant to do step 2, which is to reach out and connect with your customers. I understand. It's what held me back for so long. Now, some of you may not mind this at all. If you're an extrovert, you're probably excited about this step. But that's not for all of us. In fact, I always chuckle when I go on trips with my mom. She is a natural born friendship maker. You can go on a cruise with her, and by the end of the trip, she knows half the ship. It's the funniest thing in the world. I mean, you can go to a grocery store with her, and in the time it takes to check out, she's made best friends with the person behind you in line. It's a beautiful thing, but it's definitely not for all of us. And expecting yourself to suddenly change your personality overnight isn't going to happen. And you shouldn't even try. But you still need to do it. And it's not an excuse to reach out to your customers just because it's a little uncomfortable or even a lot uncomfortable. But the good news is that by doing it this way, by reaching out and connecting with your customers at the start, in order to build relationships and make connections and understand them better, it makes the process so much easier and so much more comfortable because you're not reaching out to be a salesperson. When you're doing it in a sales role, people are resistant and you do get more rejection and all the things that come with the insecurities of reaching out and talking to strangers are so much worse. But if you do it early in the steps, like I show you, it becomes maybe not easy, but a lot easier. And a lot more effective, especially down the road when you start to sell to them because you've already built that relationship with them. The other thing that I often hear is, I don't have time to do this. Well, I've got to tell you, you don't have time not to. The amount of time we waste doing marketing efforts that are ineffective really adds up. And the amount of time we waste by not having customers and not making income because we haven't done effective marketing efforts also adds up. So yes, it takes a little bit of time to do this, but as you start building those relationships, the effect of what you're doing snowballs and it becomes easier and easier to maintain and grow those relationships. Word of mouth starts spreading and the time you need to put into it decreases drastically as long as you put the effort into building those relationships and giving value and taking the other steps that I show you how to build upon that we're going to cover in video number 2 and 3. If you focus on identifying your narrow target audience, finding and connecting with them, and then giving them real value, you're going to find that by helping love your customers, they really are going to come to love you, and love you a great deal more than all the competitors you're working against, regardless of whether they have the big budgets for the big marketing teams and everything else. People want to buy from those they like, know, and trust. And by taking these steps that I've covered in this video and in the next 2 videos, you're going to find that you are going to, by loving your customers, help them come to love you. I also encourage you to share with me in the posts below this or on social media, what are the big challenges that you face when trying to reach out to customers and to attract them? What holds you back the most? I'd love to hear from you, and any questions you have, post them in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video.